And I just totally love you, and I'll see you in Denver. Hi, babe. Pentagon just got hit.
United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States, said, "Even the smallest act of service, the simplest act of kindness, is a way to honor those we lost, a way to reclaim the spirit of unity that followed September the 11th. At Jacksonville High School, we not only remember the almost 3,000 American lives lost on September 11th, 2001, but also honor every student, parent, and member of the Jacksonville family who works to serve our community and nation in a spirit of unity. While we look back with reverence on the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, let us look forward with hope for opportunities to serve, to show kindness, and to the many accomplishments we will all make on behalf of our great nation."
Hi, I'm Elaine Hudgens with the Golden Eagle Media. Today marks the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001, when 2,977 people died at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and in Pennsylvania. One of those who perished that day was JHS graduate Major Dwayne Williams. Golden Eagle Media talked to his brother Roy, Jonathan Skinner, and former Alabama Governor Don Siegelman.
We grew up idolizing Dwayne as a star basketball player, a star football player. He was just, everyone loved Dwayne. And he was a Mr. Fix-It. He could fix anything. He watched my grandfather. He learned how to fix electricity. When things broke in the house, my mother knew we could depend on Dwayne to fix it. And everyone just loved Dwayne. It started out, and I started my book on the morning of September 11th. It seemed like a normal every day. I got my 2-year-old, got her dressed. I took her to her daycare, and I went to work in the newsroom. But before I left the home, we saw images of the first plane that hit Twin Towers. And then an hour later, or maybe it was, I can't remember, it was 30 minutes later, whatever. When the second plane got hit, I said, oh boy, my brother's about to go to war again, because he was in the first Persian Gulf War. And I just said, oh, we got to pray because we're under attack. I never imagined that about an hour or so later, then the Pentagon was going to be struck. Yeah. So it just started out as a normal day. My mother made her mission to keep Dwayne's legacy going. And the memorial was the first. I think it opened 2 years after 9/11. And when I saw it, it just blew me away because I didn't know it was going to be so nice. If you've been there, you see the way they did, they spared no details. They had the Pentagon memorial with like the image of the Pentagon with Dwayne's name. Then they had the benches with his widow's name and kid's name, my parents' name, and then his brothers. And I just thought it was so well done. And I'm glad that my mother was able to get the people to help raise the funds for that. Tragedy like this happens. God allows it to happen for a reason. Unfortunately, my brother and the 3,000 people that died that way were just they had to pay that sacrifice, but they found a loophole in our security systems because these people were able to so easily get on so many planes. They were able to sneak in I think it was like box cutters, whatever they used to get on the planes, and then of course to attack the people who were on the plane. So that loophole was closed. I think countless lives have been saved because of the security issues that was put in place after 9/11. Think about it, it's been 20 years, there has not been another attack like this. It should have been some red flags going off when they found out later on that the 19 hijackers were all in these different schools learning how to fly airplanes, but they didn't want to learn. They weren't interested in learning how to land them. So some red flags should. I think those loopholes were filled, and when it comes to people who are enrolling in flight training schools as well. 9/11 was your generation's Pearl Harbor. I was not born. I was born in '64, but so I did not. My parents were young children. My mother was born in '42. She was born a year after Pearl Harbor. Which my dad was born in '35. So he was a young child. But I am hoping and praying that, you know, this younger generation and our nation as well will get back to that sense of patriotism that makes us the United States the greatest state, country in the nation, in the world, and unite and put aside our petty differences, and that we will learn the lessons of the heroes of 9/11, that we are a great nation, a melting pot of people of all nationalities and colors and creeds from all over the world. And if we will learn to put aside our political differences, our racial differences, and realize that we're all one nation under God, under the great colors of red, white, and blue, that, you know, united, we can achieve so much. Divided, we fall, but united, we can stand tall and continue to take this nation to even greater heights.
9/11 was a tragic event in America. It was a hard time for us. It rocked our economy for a really long time, but we found a way to recover. And in 2013, I think we rebuilt another tower, and we call that the Freedom Tower now.
I know that the planes flew into the Twin Towers, and then it caused a fire, and they tried to evacuate all the people, but eventually they couldn't, and it burned down and collapsed, and many people died.
It changed the U.S. completely. It devastated a lot of people's lives. Like, it changed a lot of people's lives, and it was devastating for the U.S.
So do I remember where I was? So yes, I was actually here at the high school. I was in 9th grade. I was in Miss Lyons' physical science class, which is Coach Patterson's room now. We were in class change when we found out about it, because we noticed a lot of the teachers were outside in the halls kind of grouped together. And we noticed, I mean, even I as a 9th grader kind of knew that something wasn't right, because some of them were actually crying. Some of them were, I mean, you could tell that they were upset. And then when we went into class, Miss Lyons, our teacher, actually told us that there had been attacks on our country. And we actually watched news coverage for the rest of the day. So the thoughts that went through my mind as a 9th grader, I think you're still kind of, I remember being kind of confused, kind of not exactly knowing what was going on. We knew it was a big deal just because of how our teachers were reacting to it. But initially I just remember watching the news coverage of it, not really, I mean, I vividly remember seeing the TV screens and seeing the planes crashing into the Twin Towers. And the more I watched it, the more it kind of set in that this was a very serious and sad situation for our country. After the attacks, well, actually, once I went home, later that day, we spent the rest of the night watching news coverage. We watched, I remember watching President Bush's speech to the country, talking about how we were going to respond to this. So, and then it was constantly on our minds for even weeks afterwards. I think it created, in some way, I think it even made us, we were already a close family, but it even made us closer. And I think it created more talks about our country, even at home, more talks about patriotism, just more positive talks about just the independence we have here in our country. In my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen more patriotism in our country. Just seeing the flag being flown and red, white, and blue, and just kind of more camaraderie just out in the public. It's one of those tragic events that it's always going to be remembered. It's going to be taught from here on out. I don't want to compare it, but I am going to compare it to to the attacks on like Pearl Harbor. It's a date that we're never going to forget. Well, I think so. I don't think it's not infiltrated in everything that we do in history classes, but I do know that our teachers, as well as I, at least on that day, we spent the day talking about 9/11. The history of it, the statistics of it, what caused it. I mean, all aspects of it. We at least try to bring a focus point to 9/11 because it is important. Well, I think it's important because students your age were not alive yet for the most part. And it's kind of one of those dates that it's just another date in the history book that you kind of get taught about. So it's hard for the younger generation to kind of relate to it. But with it being, just 20 years ago, I think it's very important because it's really not that long ago. And still people are very passionate about it. So it's good that we're teaching it and talking about it. Well, I mean, obviously we've been in the Middle East ever since. Now, obviously, just very recently, we're bringing our troops back home. Some agree with that, some disagree with that. I think, and it has changed obviously with our airport security. Airport security drastically changed after 9/11. So, yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things. 9/11 will never be forgotten. So I think it will always have some sort of impact on foreign policy.
On the day of 9/11, I was teaching special education at Jacksonville High School. My classroom was in the home ec room. It was around 8:15 that morning. One of the custodians came in my room and said, "Turn on the TV. You're not going to believe it. A plane has hit the World Trade Center."
I was in a 7th grade classroom at Oxford Middle School.
How has 9/11 impacted you?
I think it makes me appreciate family, friends a little bit more. You kind of hold on to those special events that happen with your family and friends a little more than we did before.
I remember I was in Panama, at the University of Panama. I was taking some classes and it was scary because they canceled all our classes that day. It was so sad. Everybody was in front of the TV. We went all home to just watch the news. And they canceled everything. Even in Panama, it was far away from the U.S.
Well, I was living in Del Rio, Texas at the time. And my son, he would have been 19, let's see, he was a toddler. And I had taken my oldest daughter, Emily, I'd taken her to school, and then when we came home, I usually took him for a walk. And when we came home from the walk, we came in the house, and I turned on the TV, and that's all you could see.
I had been pushing for, for free college education and free early learning for children, and focusing on education and bringing in automobile, the Honda, Toyota, Mercedes, Hyundai, and other automobile suppliers, and trying to get people to work by building new roads and bridges. But at that moment, my job shifted. We were concerned about not only attacks against the military operations in the state, but more importantly, we were concerned about terrorist attacks on things that were less secure, like water reservoirs and the nuclear facility in Dothan. So we started, looking at and prioritizing, what were the things that terrorists might look to as soft targets. The perception that we were, that this country could not be attacked, that this country was immune from those kinds of horrors because of where we were situated and because of the military might that we possessed, the military intelligence that we had. But all of that was shattered in an instant at 8:47 in the morning Eastern time on September the 11th. So we met reality in a hurry. And, of course, lots have changed since then, and we are being, much more cautious at our airports. Our intelligence, hopefully, has improved dramatically since, 20 years ago, so that we're able to keep a closer eye and watch on terrorists as they begin to look at ways to do harm to our country. This is a day that will be in, my memory, of course, just as December 7th, the bombing of Pearl Harbor was in the minds and memories of those who were alive during that period of time. There are a number of good documentaries that have been produced, and I think that forcing yourself, and I say forcing oneself to watch these horrific documentaries is a painful way to bring it all into focus. But I think unless you try to understand, which means not only reading but viewing what happened, without that, I don't think you're going to have I don't think you can grasp the horror of what happened that day.